Thank you. What are they showing us tonight?
I did not specifically tell. But she would have been.
She was here at the meeting, but she leaves early.
But she leaves early.
Okay.
We can stick her in at the end.
She counts, we can plug
Yeah,
her.
that's not gonna do anything when you're showing expenses.
I mean, it's listed as, call order is listed after pledge. Yeah, but you can do it either way. A lot of people call the order and then do the pledge. There's no magic.
I'll do it the way it's.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome. Would you please rise, and Director Gray will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your head for a moment of silence.
It is 6:30 on January 14th, 2020, and I now call this meeting of the Northern Lebanon School District to order. Mrs. Martin, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, all 4 members are present.
Thank you. An executive session was held at 6 o'clock on January 14th to discuss confidential legal student information as well as personnel issues. And a board workshop will be held on January 16th at 6 o'clock. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda.
Yes, I move to amend the agenda, specifically discussion item number 3, under employment subsection A, to read grant authorization to Dr. Messinger to conditionally fill open middle school math teacher with an identified candidate pending receipt of affirmative recommendation prior to the February board meeting and to be ratified at the February meeting. The rest of the items should remain as written.
May I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say aye or abstain. The amended agenda is adopted. Moving on to presentations. The high school students of the month for January are Gage Kroll and Zara Zerman. This award is sponsored jointly by the Fredericksburg and Jonestown Lions Clubs, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Lions Club. In the middle school student of the month for January is Grace Lorengic. I apologize if I mispronounced that. This award is sponsored by the Northern Lebanon County Rotary Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Rotary Club. Are any of those students here tonight? And I believe Henna has not made it. We have our audit report by Crowley and Halloran.
Okay, we have handed out a slide packet here, so we didn't take any risks with technology. We've got good old-fashioned paper. So instead of going through the bound book that you have in front of you, we'll just touch on these slides.
So thanks for having us this evening. My name is Michael Crowley. This is Pam Halloran. We completed the external audit for the school district. So we'll go through the slides that you have in front of you. So the first slide talks about the audit report and gives you what an audit report consists of. So it has different paragraphs there. The important one, and we'll hit that to move right along, is that last bullet point there, the opinion. We gave the district an unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion we're allowed to give, so it's a clean opinion. So congratulations on that. I'll move your attention to slide 4, which is management's discussion and analysis. So in the report, the rather lengthy bound report, there's a section in there called the management discussion and analysis. And that kind of gives a good narrative of what took place during the year. It also gives a comparative numbers, so you can see what you did last year as what you did the year before. It's prepared by management of the district. It also has some graphs and charts in there. So we encourage you to take a look at that and go through that. That would give you a good flavor of what took place during the year for the district.
Okay, that's pages 4 to 14.
The slide 5 is the condensed statement of net position. Kind of give you a visual of what took place during the year. So you can see it's similar, so that you've got 2 years compared there, a very similar position. And if you remember from previous discussions we've had with the district, there's 2 kinds of presentations going on with the financials. There's the government-wide presentation, which includes all the assets of the district and all the liabilities of the district. And that's the first stuff we're going to cover. And then there's the fund statements, which is really how the district runs the operations of the school. So as you know, with the government-wide statements, they include the pension liability and also your OPEB liability, the liability for medical
Other post-employment benefits.
Mostly medical insurance. That covers your current employees and retired employees. So that liability is quite high and causes the district to have a negative unrestricted fund balance, along with every other government now has that position. So because of the promises made to employees, it's causing, and statement number 75 that put this on the balance sheets of all the different governments, it's caused governments to be kind of underwater.
We implemented GASB, or you implemented GASB 75 last year, and it required a restatement of that beginning that position. This year, there were no huge standards implemented.
So the first statement is called the statement of net position. Slide 6 shows you some highlights. There was total assets and deferred outflows were $43.5 million. Your total assets were $34 million. That's kind of a decrease of $926,000 from the year before. Your deferred outflows were $9.2 million. That's an increase over the year before. Total liabilities was $75.7 million. That was a decrease of $686,000 from last year. Deferred inflows are $1.2 million. It's a decrease of about $550,000 from the year before. And the net position, the difference between the assets plus the deferred outflows minus the liabilities and minus the deferred inflows is the net position. That's 33.5 deficit. Last year we reported a deficit of $33.9 million. So there was an actual increase in net position of $413,000 for the year.
That deficit is absolutely because of those standards that were implemented in recording that other post-employment benefit and the pension liabilities.
Slide 7 kind of gives you an overview of pie charts of the government activities statement. So this is the revenues and expenses. These are the expenses of the district.
Right, we show expenses on that statement on top. So we show the expenses first.
Right. So with most governments, that's how we work. So the expenditures are up at the top and revenues have to go at the bottom, because that's what you need to make to provide the services for the district. So the statement of activities is on page 8. That kind of gives you an overview. Net functioning programs total of $30.6 million. Last year was $28.1 million. And on slide 9, we show you the government activities revenues for the 2 years. Again, very similar. The 2 years are very similar in terms of what they break down to. Most of the revenue is from property and other taxes, as we'd expect. Slide 10 talks about the statement of activities and changes in net position. General revenues increased $1.7 million. So you had $31.1 million for the year. Property and other tax revenue increased $1.1 million. Interest income increased $95,000. Grants and entitlements increased $101,000. Miscellaneous was $416,000 increase. And there was the difference between the net cost of function and programs, $30.7 million, and general revenues of $31 million was an increase in that position of $413,000. Last year, there was also an increase that was $1.3 million. So we'll bring you to the other presentation, the government statements, the fund statements. So that's more how the district runs its operations. So the main fund is the general fund. General fund had a fund balance of $4.8 million. That's a decrease of $87,000 from the prior year, so almost a break even. $87,000 in terms of the size of the district is probably as close to a break even. We didn't have anything happening in the capital fund. There was no capital project going, so that has just a $30 fund balance. And the debt service fund has a zero fund balance that pretty much just pays the debt, and there's a transfer from the general fund to cover provide the revenues to be able to pay the debt. Slide 12, there was an operating deficit in the general fund of $87,000. Prior year had a surplus of $524,000. As I said, the capital fund had no activity. And on the debt service fund, there was $1.3 million of principal payments on the debt, $449,000 of the interest and finance charges. Slide 13, we show you kind of an overview of what took place in the food service over the years.
Since 2007, so we've been keeping that data.
So we're showing you the revenues and the expenses. You can see things have gotten a lot better since we outsourced district. And some of the highlights for the food service. So the food service is what we call a proprietary fund. Got cash and the cash equivalents of $480,000 over the prior year. There was a huge general fund was $240,000.
So cash was up, but also the due too was up as well. So.
Right at the end of the year, there was a transfer that didn't take place, and I believe it was done later on. So that's why the cash was higher. Your total net position is a deficit of $602,000. There's a net investment in capital assets of about $22,600. Your unrestricted deficit is $625,000. The interfund revenue from the general fund was $300,000. So the general fund provided revenue to the food service, and the food service had a $225,000 gain. Last year was a $42,000 gain. We expect the food service for this year to, again, show a positive result. I think there would probably be another transfer to the general fund. The main part of the statements are these the notes of the financial statement. So they start with note 1, starts on page 32 in the big bound booklet. The There's a number of notes that are required. We always talk about, bring your attention to the capital asset note. That's on note 6 on page 39. It summarizes the district's capital assets. If you get a chance, you can take a look at that. Debt is a note 7. That's on pages 40 to 42. It details the district's debt. As I said before, the district paid $1,310,000 on principal on the bonds. So each year we're paying those down. Compensated absences was $72,000 increase, and your health care retirement benefits was a $3,000 decrease. The pension note is note 8, goes from pages 43 to 48. The district is part of the PISO's pension system, and your share, the district share of that liability is $52.5 million. So on the next area is that post-employment benefit that we've kind of talked about. That's note 9, pages 48 to 51. There's 2 systems there. There's the Pennsylvania system, for part of the liability, and then the district has its own system that it funds, so that's incorporated in that. The district's liability is $4.6 million for the OPEB. That's up $500,000 over last year.
So there's also schedules after the notes that detail these, there's a lot of required schedules that are in there. So if you want to read the financials, the big bad report, and keep you busy for quite a while with those schedules.
So there's another schedule in here called the federal awards, the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. That's included as well, but there's also a report that's in there called the Yellow Book Report. That's a report on your internal controls of financial reporting. It also details reports on compliance and other matters that took place during the year. So if there was a finding there, we'd be letting you know. There were no findings.
Right, we did look at the school lunch program, and breakfast is included in there as well, and Title I. So in there we test internal controls over compliance, and we test the compliance requirements, and eligibility, and special reporting, and all sorts of things that we're required to test.
So if we did have a deficiency of any kind, they'd be broken up into these segments here, and was clean, did not have a finding?
No deficiencies in internal controls noted, or significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, so I'm just happy to say that. Also, with your bound report, there's 2 communication letters. One is just 1 page, and here we're telling you that we had no material weaknesses, which is what we're allowed to tell you in writing on that one. And then there's another board letter, which lets you know our responsibilities, your responsibilities. If we implemented any new standards during the year, we let you know there. If we had significant adjustments that we had to make, we would let you know. If we had any problems getting information or any issues with management, and of course we did not. So we're always treated very, very well here. We love coming, and very, very attentive staff. Everybody does a great job. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Just real quickly, so there are no recommended actions for us to take based upon this audit?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for that detailed report. Moving on, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Messinger.
A couple of things. First of all, I'd like to welcome, we have a new face with us who started yesterday, Kelly Basnick-Jones over there. And we have already given her some things to do. And she's working hard in the 2 days she's been here already, so welcome, Kelly. Also want to make you aware, to let you know that in your packets I provided you some information, 2 different things. The first is the Pennsylvania property tax cut proposals. This was provided by the IU. It gave an outline of 5 plans. There are now 7 plans. So from the time I printed this for you until the time that we had the meeting, there's 2 additional plans that I do not have information on at this point, but
to you, but it gives you a little brief overview of what those plans are, which helps you to understand how that would impact school districts. In addition to that, there is enrollment data from across the IU, including Northern London. That was a question that had come up in the course of some of the budget discussions as well. And you can see all the way back to, on the one page in particular, for the Northern London School District enrollment, it has been almost flatlined. Back in 2009, 2010, we had 2,475 students. We right now currently have 2,433 students, and really have had minimal up and down. It's been up and down very slightly over those past 10 years. So that's enrollment data that you might want to take a look at. But those two things are included in your packet. And then finally, I wanted to draw your attention to the tables in front of you. It is Board Appreciation Month, and January, all month long. So tell your spouses to treat you right. And but we have some treats for you and a thank you, including some coasters that our kids made that are engraved with the Northern London symbol, and I thought those came out really nicely. But enjoy those for Board Appreciation Month, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Nessinger, and thank you to everyone involved in those homemade goodies. Is there any other old business to add to the agenda this evening? Then we will move to the public input session. Interested persons must complete a written request to address the board prior to the public input session. These individuals will be acknowledged, and when addressing the board, please come to the podium. Please state your name and address prior to sharing your comments. A 4-minute time period will be granted, and Director Nam will keep that time. We have one request, that is Mr. Andrew Murphy.
Andrew Murphy, 1828 Blacksbridge Road, Anvil, PA. Welcome to the new school directors, to the board. I hope you guys' insight changed from where we've been, because we definitely need it here. I heard at the committee meeting that the first draft of the budget's pushed back till March. I'm kind of a little curious as to why, because that gives you guys less time to review and make cuts before you need to approve it. I'm definitely, it sounds like from the audit, I have to get a copy of that to find if that's true, but it looks like you guys paid the money in to pay down the food service fund to get that zero. I asked the last board where that money was coming from to do that, because it always sounded like it was monopoly money, but I think it was tax money. And this district is in financial need. The business manager has told us within 3 years we were going to be negative $1 million. So we need to make some tough choices, because our kids go to school here. We want there to be a school here for them to attend. So we have to be very judicious with our finances so that we can pay teachers. You guys either approved or are about to approve a policy that's going to allow you to change furlough on what you can furlough someone off for in any of your staff. I don't know if that's one of your plans to fight the oncoming finances. I've heard that from a board member before. But I'm very concerned with where the finances are and what you guys are going to do with taxes. For the last 2 years, you've had elderly people come to board meetings and talk about how they won't be able to pay their school taxes. This is an issue because the prior board has not cut enough and has had a deficit for the last few years on the finances. So before you come back to our pocketbooks, cut your own. Because you got people that aren't gonna be able to afford their homes. And that's a problem. And nobody wants to really hear that, and it's very hard to address that. But that is a challenge this board needs to fix as soon as they can. They need to address this because we need to thrive. And we're not in that position right now.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. We have a request that was submitted via email. Do we have Mr. Robert Gantz with us this evening? All right, then we will, if that is there anybody else who would like to provide public input this evening? All right, then we will move on to our student board representative presentation by Hannah Colombo.
Hello everybody, thank you for giving me your attention. This evening I will be giving a brief overview of Class 4's results, the pep rally results, and the upcoming King of Hearts dance plans. The freshman class won Class 4's and we are all very excited for them. Big congratulations. They were awarded with the Sock Hop, which occurred during periods 6A and 6B. The student council provided pizza from Girls Pizza. We gave leftover pieces to teachers, seniors because they won second place, and the student council members. The pep rally went extremely well. Students and staff were able to watch and enjoy as students competed in musical chairs and the pie eating contest. We closed with a lip sync battle from Mr. Wetling, Mr. Hess, and Ms. Zinsky. Tomorrow, at our student council meeting, we will review with each King of Hearts chair to see what we have prepared for the dance. We will be discussing decorations, food, and more. Thank you for your time. Please enjoy the rest of your evening and drive home safely.
Thank you for that update, Hannah. All right, then we will move on to items for board action. First is our consent calendar. On our consent calendar, we have items 1 through 16. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve the consent calendar as it is listed.
Second?
Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded as voting in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The consent agenda has passed. Moving on to our discussion items. We have items 1, 2, and our amended item 3. May I have a motion to approve our discussion items? Do you want me to do one of them?
I didn't know if there was a discussion or not.
May I have a motion to approve discussion items 1, 2, and amended item 3?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on any 3 of those items? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded as voting in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The discussion items have passed. All right, moving on to item M. This is our reports of our representatives. We have our representative for career and technology, Director Klein.
Nothing to report.
Right. Then intermediate unit, Director Murray.
You'll see in your packet, there's an invitation for the Reinventing Learning Showcase. It is a phenomenal event that takes place every year at the IU. There's the date is listed there as well as times, and I'd love to see Northern Lebanon represented well there.
Yeah, we do have students planning on participating.
Good. Thank you.
What was the date of that?
It's March 11th.
Thank you. March 11th. Legislative PSBA Liaison, Director Sakala.
I just want to encourage everyone to go on to their My PSBA account and sign up to do the 2019-20 budget webcast. I think as we're gearing up to go into budget discussions, it's really good to look at the formulas on how we get the funding that we get. There was an increase in the state budget for new basic education as well as special education. And also, plan ahead, Monday, March 23rd is Advocacy Day at 8 a.m. in Harrisburg. So anyone interested in being able to come with us would be more than welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for that report, Director Sakala. Is there any new business to discuss this evening? We do have a few dates to remember. Monday, January 20th, school is closed in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but that is a Teacher in Service Day. We meet again as a board for a public committee meeting on February 4th at 6:30. Is there anything else for the good of the order this evening?